Okay, I admit it. I'm a sucker for a good conspiracy theory. Last week, I thought I'd uncovered the mother of all conspiracies by proving a second gunman took a shot at Pauline Marois. Look closely at this video. See the bullet hole that appears behind her head? Now, I know what you're thinking. Umberto, I've seen your masterful special effects. You faked this. But no, I didn't. This is undoctored CBC video. I just added the little arrow. But yeah, it could be a bad pixel or just my febrile imagination. Because who or why would anybody want to shoot at a PQ leader? Well, the election of Pauline Marois was a happy ending for the biggest social movement in North America since feet hit the street to stop the Vietnam War. People might start to get ideas. They might even start organizing mass resistance against their own tuition hikes, or repressive protest laws, or even bitumen pipelines. Nothing worse than a good example, eh? But after watching several newscasts seriously question whether Pauline Marois was even the target, the true nature of the conspiracy finally hit me. Now, imagine for a moment a francophone separatist yelling, "Maudit Anglais!" shoots up a Stephen Harper speech at a Fraser Institute dinner. What pundit would even question who the Frenchman was there to pop? It would be a foregone conclusion. Then, faster than you could say War Measures Act, the media would cheer on as Anticosti Island was rechristened Gitmo North and Quebec student leaders were disappeared to learn the joys of waterboarding there. But before the Marois assassination attempt was even investigated, the airwaves were flooded with lone crazy gunman spin. Sure, the Spain guy ran a remote hunting camp, had tons of guns, quoted the Bible, railed at bureaucracy, and dropped a wad to fly to Vegas for a photo op with Celine Dion. But come on, a week ago this kind of crazy man was what right-wingers proudly called their base. But make no mistake, murdering people for their political persuasion or ethnicity is not insanity, it's terrorism. I, for one, am not at all surprised that someone like Bain tried to shoot Pauline Marois. The Canadian extremist media has demonized her since Charest called the election.
And now here's CTV News executive producer Barry Wilson with some of his thoughts.
This is the party that has closed English hospitals and decimated our education system. This is the leader who is promising limiting access to English CEGEPs. She is promising more restrictive language legislation and vowing to force small businesses like dépanneurs to operate in French only. You call that respect? It's such an old and stale strategy, like the knife at the throat of the rest of Canada.
John Baird says Iran is the greatest threat to our security, but methinks he's got a blind spot. It's right-wing political violence that should be triggering the red alert. Think about it. The smoking gun in the Gifford shooting and the Wisconsin Sikh temple massacre was right-wing hate culture. In Norway, 70 teenagers were murdered by a neo-Nazi to spark a race war. Before 9/11, there was Oklahoma City. And I think we've all lost count of abortion providers murdered and clinics bombed in acts of right-wing terror. Here in Canada, most acts of terror in the 60s and 70s weren't caused by the FLQ. In the last 50 years, 40% of all international terrorist attacks in Canada were carried out by fascists crossing over the border from the US to attack Cuban diplomats. Yet the right wing refuses to accept any responsibility. And our media watchdogs? Well, they're just trained monkeys who see, hear, and speak no evil unless it's quoting the Quran or wearing a black hoodie. The real conspiracy here is the collaboration to obscure right-wing terrorism. But now, courtesy of a government that didn't even want Quebec to know who had a gun in their nation, right-wing hate is weaving itself indelibly into the Canadian fabric.
Easier to hire cops to go after Anglophones than cops to go after the mob or biker gang. Pauline Marois is a small, petty, weak bully.
So really, is it such a surprise that so many Quebecers want to go their own way and firewall this shit out? I wish we could. In Toronto, for Rabble TV, I'm Humberto da Silva, not Rex Murphy.
Now it's time to erase the story.